Okay, before we get to the meat and potatoes, the bulk of this video, I kind of wanted to point out a few very important facts and things going on. One has to do with the psychology community, lead officer Sean Dinsey, Officer Jensen, Officer Toro. If you ever take a picture of a person, I will exercise the law in my own way. Judicial system, psychology community, working with the judicial system and government on these childhood flagging operations. Come about maybe 6 or 7 years when they realized that they were losing control of their oppression, so to speak, and my website went online and I started to try to hire ghostwriters to write books and things like this. That is when they really ramped up their attacks and went aggro, from the mass psychological batterings to the more obvious, like the physical attacks, and you can't go anywhere, you can't go here, you can't go there, we don't like the signs on your car, so you're not allowed to leave your house, things like this, right? And keep in mind, these aren't local area things, these are worldwide operations with security companies all interjoined with the police and government on these operations to stalk and hunt me for simply finding out at 29 what was going on, and then around 40 years old saying enough's enough, they're not going to stop, I need to put up a website and write books and things like this. Them going ballistic, starting to have police officers show up in my presence and with falsified arrests and things like this to try to lock me away or silence me. Off the top of my head, with the endless police officers I've encountered that don't think what they're doing is wrong and they're trying to silence me, make me look crazy, turn things around on me, cover up these mass operations, and of course notify worldwide groups with the psychology community that I'm a crazy person that needs to be removed from society, which is unheard of, because who would care if some crazy guy is writing books about his life, if he's delusional or not? Nobody normally would care unless they have something to hide. And they do. Hence, around 40 years old, maybe 6-7 years ago, arresting me first with Officer Jensen, and Dinsey was his lackey, trainee partner, for misdemeanors for sitting on the sidewalk and things like this, because when he was harassing me, I asked him for his badge number, so he wrote up these tickets and saying things like I battered someone by throwing a card at them. Well, not only is that impossible, you can't batter someone by throwing a card at them, it never happened, showing these operations. But more importantly, that almost all the lawyers have been contacted worldwide saying don't help Kevin Perlman and he's done all these things and he's crazy and this and that, to stop me from ever getting help. Same with the psychology community and everywhere else. Now their attacks are everywhere worldwide, from every restaurant, every store, every coffee shop. Companies like Starbucks, Coffee Bean, investing huge amounts of money and paying off people with the police to threaten my life, attack me, you name it, all involved. So Starbucks and Coffee Bean are trying to cover up these operations, showing that they have bigoted, racist aspects of their corporation going on and are discriminating against me, but also trying to cover up murder operations and actually are accessory to attempted murder with these police terror, thugging, torture operations to have me eradicated. Now, Dinsey, just so you understand some of these cover-up operations, and more importantly, that Mike Huntley, someone I knew from the age 14 to 29, sent after me and then sort of tried to trick and manipulate me, moving back from University of Colorado back to California so Mike Huntley could start a company with me. My father wanted me to move in at his house for a year. All these pure pressure manipulations with ulterior motives to try to make me look crazy, set me up, frame me, you name it. Mike Huntley, after we started a company, Mike Huntley wanted to start a internet host provider with me, which we started for about 6 years, which I didn't even realize all the things they were doing to me with Bob Sandler, Paul Humphrey, Mike Huntley. Come 29, Mike Huntley changing from I'm your 25-year friend to I've given you enough rope to hang yourself, you had better live a careful life, singing world paranoia, walking around the office, putting sheets of paper about South Korea, making people mentally able to control them, all these freaky things. telling me I had better live a careful life, in an angry voice, have a good life now, little cryptic message quotes from Crocodile Dundee about, I don't remember the exact line. When Wally does something, when someone does something, we tell Wally, and Wally tells the entire town, no more problem, letting me know that he's disseminating lie after lie to the world about me with the government, NSA, FBI, and the psychology community. And he's mad at me for things at 14 that aren't crimes, like he introduces me to his friend Melody the stripper, and asks me she asked me if I want to bounce for a few bachelor parties, which nobody would care about, hinting that, well, I committed a crime by doing this, things that nobody would care about. Dincy and Jensen poked their head out of the grass on some Google blogs with the Met complex surrounding my house, where people are told to keep making up lie after lie and disseminating them, and Mike Huntley, Paul Humphrey, Patty Guggen poked their head out of the snake hole on these blogs, which I have screenshots of, showing that supposedly at 29 I just snapped and went crazy because they didn't like the content of my website talking about specific people and what they had done in my life or were doing. Hence, Jensen and Dincy on their personal vendetta, but really to try to cover up something much bigger, were obviously paid off by the government to hunt and stalk and try to silence me, which is still going on with these illegal arrests. Dincy's fabricated police reports, Dincy contacting people, which is right on court transcripts, Terrence Scroggins, telling Terrence Scroggins to go after me, and much more proof and data that I have, which is too much to talk about, showing that I'm actually being hunted and targeted by the government, Topanga Division LAPD, which is notifying police worldwide, security companies worldwide. Now, in order for them to try to make eradicating, or as my attorney, Seymour Amster, has told me that they've said that they want to incarcerate me for life. Remember, I've committed no real crime. Even the falsified arrests are small misdemeanors, but they want to incarcerate me for life. Why? Well, it's obviously about what I know and them not wanting me talking. So, Dincy, who is now on Channel 9 News, preaching about cleaning up the streets and how the mentally ill could be a problem and this and that, showing us Adolf Hitler types of ways, is actually being funded and supported by Channel 9, I think it might be CBS, Daily News, with clear and obvious intent that they sort of had to put them on a pedestal to try to protect them for their illegal criminal activities, so that they would have enough power to get away with the mass crimes they're committing, going after me or the homeless, not for any criminal activities, just because they don't like them with the, we want to clean up the world, or we want to clean up the city, so we're going to kind of target those who we think are mentally ill or those who are homeless and lock them away and eradicate them, incarcerate them for life, not for committing crimes, but for being imperfect or for having problems, right? Well, I've never heard of a situation where a cop says, you see that guy? He doesn't know where his next meal's coming from, so he doesn't have the right to live, right? That's exactly the type of thing I'm talking about. Well, me labeled at 5 years old, I think Kevin's mentally ill, or I think Kevin's crazy, so we're going to eradicate him. Well, that's normally not the criteria for removing people from society, unless they went out and got an Uzi and started blowing people away or something. Which brings me to the next point. Some of Dincy's arguments about me. Trying to make me look like the Vegas shooter, right? Kevin's crazy. He thinks the world's against him. He suffers from abandonment issues. This is all, ironically, coming from my own father and family as well, which is freakier than hell. But making up these fabrications to discredit me so that they can work with the psychology community to try to make me look like a violent, paranoid schizo, crazy, and justify, well, this guy's the next Unabomber. Well, where do I come up with the next Unabomber? Well, that comes from a girl named Victoria Walker they paid off with my father and the LAPD to befriend me, introduced me through a man named Brian Longbotham, who I was working for jobs at Universal Studios, modern video film, doing 3D animation, visual effects, to find out that this person who befriended me for 15 years after was working on me the entire time, trying to make it look like I was a violent paranoid schizo and doing all these horrible things to people so that they could remove me from society, introducing me to Victoria Walker, who moved on 187 Donegal, Newbury Park, and calls me up 17 years later while having her son follow me from place to place, trying to hint that while she lives on 187 Donegal, and 187 Donegal is the penal code for murder, which the police are following around telling them when I killed someone, and then when I noticed Victoria Walker's old abusive behaviors, I cut her off, and people in my neighborhood wrote 187 on my car and all these things, showing the linked connections between the government and my family paying off Victoria Walker with the psychology community, and Victoria Walker, when reeling me in like usual, having these little side conversations about people with guns and how people with more than one gun could be crazy and this and that, blah, blah, blah. Linking back to my father and police paying off Victoria Walker at 29 to give me a toy dart gun for my birthday, and then bringing out unrelated circumstantial evidence for a misdemeanor in court a couple years ago with prosecutor Corrine T. Phillips, Officer Sean Dinsey arrest with falsifying discovery, and on the discovery showing illegal I have neighborhood watch groups on Kevin out of my jurisdiction worldwide, which aren't neighborhood watch groups, of neighborhood thugging, provokings, terror operations for setup operations because they don't want me talking, which is highly illegal and highly unconstitutional, but all linking to Victoria Walker. If you were to look on Dinsey's Facebook account, you see all these things about the Vegas shooters or people with mental illness could possibly in the future be a problem, so they need to be watched. Just disturbing things like this, right? So now, within the last month, my attorney Seymour Amster went to court on a progress hearing, which they're trying to make it, oh, well, he's crazy, but he needs to get help, blah, 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 trying to cover up this mass terror operations and trying to make me look crazy. While I'm accumulating endless physical attacks on video and this and that, oh, you know, I don't see anything, showing that I'm the one in the right and I'm the target, and them all turning a blind eye. The most recent from Sean Dinsey, just so you understand the depth that this person is paid off to go to, who is running for City Council in District 12 in Los Angeles now, showing that he has a political agenda as well, not just a police officer roaming the streets, stalking the homeless, or people with possible problems, or people with possible mental illness, but Dinsey is now running for City Council, showing that this is more of a political agenda and a power play, and you really want some Adolf Hitler Nazi skinhead like Officer Sean Dinsey running around going, I'm going to clean everyone up, and you went to a coffee shop and you blinked wrong, so we're going to incarcerate you for life. I think you suffer from depression, so there's no reason you should be in society because that could lead to this or that. Hence, with videos of Dinsey trying to break in my house, videos of Dinsey working with his coworkers, pretending to be FBI agents, and I think 3 other videos of Dinsey or other fellow LAPD trying to break in my house because of the amount of incriminating evidence that they're involved in, and what you would call an accessory to murder, to have me killed, and in an unconventional way known as gang stalking. But not only that, at 29 you need to understand that they had Rody Morales befriend me, take me to strip clubs, say I'm stalking strippers and women, and try to plant a trash bag full of marijuana on me to try to get it in my house so him with the LAPD could say I'm a drug dealer, lock me away to be a drug dealer, and things like this that didn't work, right? you get the idea what's really going on here. And at 29, I had no clue what was even going on, right? Starting to figure things out. Well, I have newspaper clippings of Rody Morales working with the LAPD, who befriended me at our gym, which was a major setup operation with Mike Huntley to get me to the gym. You could kind of, through common sense, figure things out from there. So my point is, now Officer Sean Dinsey, according to Seymour Amster, my lawyer, is stated in court in the last progress hearing that I threatened to kill all Starbucks customers. Right? I've supposedly now threatened to kill all Starbucks customers. Well, if you've seen some of his arrest discovery, or Jensen, his old partner's arrest discovery, it's lie after lie after lie after lie, fabrication after fabrication. But more importantly, working with these mass groups, which he's sort of conned or turned against me with his fear-mongering and fiction, which the police generally aren't allowed to walk up to citizens and say, help me hunt down and kill this person or rid them of the world. It is a crime for a person to become a vigilante, even if a police officer asks them to. And the police know this, so when the shit hits the fan, the police will just throw them under the bus because they're just using them to come after me, and they don't care. Because they don't want to be the ones involved in the illegal operation. They want to use all the people that don't know any better. So my point is that while Dinsey's running around stating that first is I'm the next Vegas shooter while planting toy guns on me and using them as circumstantial evidence in court hearings that have no relevance to anything with guns, and paid jury tamper juries and a paid-off judge and this and that, and all sorts of illegal operations, he's now claiming I threatened to kill all Starbucks customers, working once again on these psychological lever, as you want to speak, to stalk and target me and try to silence me and lock me away for what I know. Making claims like this, he's the next Vegas shooter, he's a crazy man, we don't trust him, and we think he's going to build an atomic bomb and blow up 100,000 people in a football stadium. Well, that's the same excuse they used on me at 5 years old, which doesn't make sense, right? So if you look at Dinsey's Facebook and read through the type of person he is, riling up, fear-mongering the masses to go after innocent people or people he thinks might be suspects, endangering people's lives, you'll also notice that he has articles about forcing people into mental institutions. Well, doesn't that seem a little strange that they're trying to incarcerate me for life, make me look crazy, and force me into a mental institution or remove me from society? Well, I don't know police officers that run around thinking they're psychiatrists. And I don't know psychiatrists that run around going, I think that person's the next Unabomber, so rid them of the world. Because these are all crimes. There's no such thing. Dinsey is committing every crime known to man while running for city council. And he's coming after me on something that starts 40 years ago, but they don't want me talking. But my point is, it's not a crime to be crazy. It's not a crime to be mentally ill. It's not a crime to wear this hat. It's not a crime to be delusional. It's not. None of these are crimes. These aren't things that the police normally go after people for, unless maybe you watch movies or something. But crimes are based on crimes, and if someone commits a crime, or there's a crime in progress, that is the police's job. The police's job is not to profile and say, I think. You know, that guy didn't shave today, so I think he might be a serial killer, so I'm going to spend the rest of my life on some kind of personal vendetta, ridding him of the world, if you understand my point. So this entire thing is about labeling. Labeling from people who want power, who are corrupt criminal trash, that will say and do whatever it takes, and go after good people like me. Okay? The police's job is not to, I don't like you or trust you, I think you're crazy, so I'm going to rid you of the world. That is unacceptable. It is unconstitutional. It's rare that it happens, but it does happen. And this is what I am speaking out against, because not only are they adamantly hunting me down with now every resource on the planet, billions of dollars, NSA, FBI, you name it, to exterminate me or eradicate me, which starts at 5 years old, and refuse to stop or be honest about the situation, saying you don't talk or we kill you and things like this with endless death threats, you get the idea that these people should not be anywhere near law enforcement or working for that matter. They're a danger to others. I don't care what uniform or badge they're wearing. They are a danger to others, violating all constitutional rights and protections. And if you notice on Dincy's arrest discovery against me, it says, I have neighborhood watch groups on Kevin Perlman. Well, it's illegal to have neighborhood watch groups on a specific person. That is not the definition of a neighborhood watch group. The definition of a neighborhood watch group is a bunch of concerned citizens that want a good, healthy community with nothing crazy going on, and if they see a crime, they call police. That is the definition of a neighborhood watch group, and a neighborhood watch group isn't Dincy running around saying, I want you to follow this guy around and keep provoking him until we can get a reaction from aggressive to passive-aggressive to subliminal, all day, night, 24/7. In my case, it's worldwide. So my point is that Dincy's, not only on the discovery does he have this illegal incriminating evidence against him, but it's out of his jurisdiction. So if I go to Long Beach, Florida, Vegas, Mexico, Sweden, everyone's working on me all day and night, trying to provoke me in reactions with the police, and then they could just try to text the police, he did this now, and arrest him, right? Well, Dincy is in Woodland Hills, California, so how does that apply to Long Beach, or Oxnard, Ventura County, or Ventura, or Downey, or San Diego, or Colorado, or Southern Oregon, or Florida, right? Do you understand? So none of this has anything to do with me other than I'm a target, and the more I find out, the more I know, the more they're working with the psychology community to try to eradicate me for what I know, what I found out at 29, which was really still the same thing, except I didn't know any better. I didn't expect it. So once again, Dincy's neighborhood watch groups are obviously not neighborhood watch groups, because it would never be in arrest discovery saying, well, Kevin has driving problems, when Kevin, me, is an exceptional driver. Exceptional record, exceptional driver, you name it. Now, Dincy is also working with large corporations like Starbucks, Coffee Bean, and these mass stalking operations saying, you're not allowed to leave your house, you're not allowed to go to coffee shops. If you do, we're going to do whatever it takes to try to terrorize, torture, set you up, and rid you of the world, and then turn it around that Kevin's crazy, and Kevin is violent, paranoid, schizo, and Kevin's 5150, and he doesn't belong in society. Now, Starbucks, along with Coffee Bean, are heavily involved in these operations, investing huge amounts of corporate resources because they're being told these lies, and they're taking part, which is the police's. It's not. If the police contact Starbucks and say, we want you to hunt down and kill Kevin Perlman or help us rid him in the world because, quote unquote, Kevin's killed someone, working with Rody Morales on some of these disinformation campaigns or propaganda, then what business does Starbucks Corporation have investing all day and night 24/7 to stalk and hunt me with mass groups? Okay, so what you need to understand is their story keeps changing. First, it's about I supposedly killed someone. Then it's about supposedly I masturbated in their bathroom, and then turning the lights off in the bathroom 14 times, and then at multiple other locations like Malibu and other Starbucks locations, do they keep turning the lights off on me in the bathroom in hopes that they can get a coerced false confession. But how would they even know that I masturbated in the bathroom if I did? You get the idea, right? Then it changes to you're exerting inappropriate behavior because you rest your feet up on a chair while reading a book outside, or worldwide groups mimic me. Any person that sees me at a coffee shop worldwide will gotta straighten that. We don't want Dincy to blow my brains out tomorrow. Anyone that any coffee shop I go to, people will mimic putting their feet or one foot on a chair to try to guilt me to death or provoke me into reactions. Now, these insignificant things which I'm talking about right now, aside from supposedly killing someone, but the real insignificant things, which their story, Starbucks, Coffee Bean, all coffee shops, restaurants, people worldwide, every person that's ever been in my life, keep crying wolf about, are things that nobody normally cares about. You parked your car backwards once, so you're ruining our lives and provoking us. You wore a green shirt and you ruined our lives and you're provoking us. You wore a camouflage hat and you ruined our lives and you're provoking us. Right? Things that don't make sense. They just keep. So remember that while I'm talking about a couple of things, the reasoning, their justification keeps changing from one thing sequentially after the next, worldwide, all day and night, and given out to the entire planet to rile the masses against me, while worldwide groups keep taking turns in anger and rage on me, and they go, you're imagining it. So, you get the idea that it's not just this claim with Roddy Morales, Kevin tried to kill someone, then Kevin's a drug dealer and we don't want him here, or Kevin has no self-control, we don't want him here, or Kevin's giving women mean stares and we don't want him there, Kevin hates black people, we don't want him here, Kevin hates Asians, we don't want him here, Kevin hates Hispanics, we don't want them here, and literally thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of these types of lies, smears, defamation given out to the entire planet worldwide in secret based on government-built terror systems using the internet, really getting bad in 1994 to rile the masses against me to end my life no matter what it takes and remove me from society. All based on some government flagging reason for 5 years old, which doesn't make sense. And you might say, does Kevin look 5? No, I'm 47. So what does 47 have to do with 5? And what could I have done at 5 that this would even remotely make sense? But it doesn't, because it's based on psychotic, paranoid psychotic murderers with psychology degrees associated with government operations and the psychology community of things that are completely unheard of. And this is what Officer Sean Dinsey is trying to protect with this government resources and hunting me down for what I found out was being done to my life. Starbucks has taken a racist, bigoted, discriminatory view, and they have actively taken part in hunting me, just like Coffee Bean and many other restaurants and places, all helping the police on these illegal, unconstitutional targeting operations. We don't like your kind. Let's talk about what this really is about. Kevin's different. We don't trust him. We don't like his kind. And some of their statements have been about my kind, whatever they mean about that, but they can't actually tell me what the hell they mean about that. Back to the psychology community labeling, he's different, we don't trust him, we're going to eradicate him. And so, well, this is a very simple overview of the bigger picture, because it's extremely complex, and now worldwide, which most people don't want to either be part of or are trying to cover up. It all comes back to the same thing. His kind can't exist. We don't trust him. Government labels and flagging starting at 5 years old. Just pure craziness from the DSM psychological book of labels. And these are dangerous labels coming from dangerous books, which is being used as a weapon. And I'm sure not just on me, although I seem to be the largest target out there, because I found out something huge and they didn't want me talking, and that escalated a forest fire of you don't talk or we kill you, which the LAPD is mad because they kind of secretly gave me a pedestal to stand on, and they don't want me to have this pedestal, even though I look crazy. They've gone irate and ballistic because they don't want me talking. Hence being known worldwide, hence being 10 times more known than Donald Trump from their crimes against me. Hence, Officer Sean Dinsey making up the lies. Kevin's the next Vegas shooter. Kevin has threatened to kill all Starbucks customers. So, with that being said, I give you this present the DSM3 book, which there are newer ones, maybe the 4 or 5, I'm not sure. The book of psychological labels, which is not just being used to help people, it is actually being used as a weapon to label, target, flag, hunt down in government kill operations or government operations to remove good, decent people from society for no reason other than we don't like you, we don't trust you, I think you could do this. I think you could do that. I think you could be the next Vegas shooter. I think you could be the next Columbine kid. I think. Well, whatever someone thinks is irrelevant to an actual real crime. A crime is a crime based on a crime or a crime in progress, and there is no if, then, but, or anything else showing that what the LAPD is doing, like they've admitted on the news, turning on people's cell phones illegally and things like this, because they think the ends justifies the means, violating people's constitutional rights, protections, and even hunting down and killing with endless resources like me, billions invested on me alone to have me hunted and killed for what I know at this point. I give you this present. Here is the DSM3 book, Psychological Warfare Book of Weapons, I'm going to be sarcastic and call it. And this is my present for all of you who have been belittled, lives destroyed by the government and police for no reason, government targeting you, government oppressing you. If you're homeless and looking for the next meal, and the government's locking you away in jail cells, saying you could be a danger, and you're crazy, and we're going to try to lock you away for life and things like this. This present is for all of you that understand what is really going on. And when you listen to the police scanner, what's going on in the police scanner? They're running around. Saying possible male mental, watch them, they're putting them on watch lists, they're following them around, not for any crimes, because they don't like or trust them, and they're not waiting for a crime to happen, they're actually hunting down good, decent people that don't have perfect lives. And some of these people, I can't tell you, but could end up in jail cells, mental institutions, you name it. And once you see Officer Sean Dinsey on the front of his website, on his Facebook, or in his Facebook wall, how to force people into mental institutions, well, we don't even really have many mental institutions other than temporary holds, surveillance holds, and things like that to protect the people, right? Showing that the type of person Dinsey is, how they sort of strategically found a guy with no morals who's a racist bigot, skinhead, Nazi, who's using gang-stalking Nazi type of tactics, which was originated from Adolf Hitler, Adolf Hitler's new type of warfare regime. That is where gang-stalking comes from, the KKK and Nazi operations, which Adolf Hitler never fully got to where he wanted to get with them. Yet we're seeing it in the United States of America, violating the Constitution of the United States with the police and those working with them that they don't know any better. They're being fear-mongered into it and manipulated into it. And trying to mask it and cover it up as neighborhood watch groups or community policing, which is beyond any level of dangerous, because if you've never gone to police academy, you shouldn't be playing police officer, and you're not allowed to play police officer. So once again, based on what's being done to my life with the government, psychology community, NSA, FBI, I'm now 47 years old. This has been going on for about 42 years, since 5 years old, since I threw some mud in the street and it accidentally hit a car and ran in my house screaming and crying, and then was going Kevin's crazy, and things like this that don't really make much sense. I give you all this present for those who want a better society, for those that want to be protected by the Constitution, for those that value their safeties and freedoms and constitutional protections, which, by the way, you have none. You have no constitutional protections. Whether you think you do, you don't. And that's the entire point of my website, based on what's being done to me. so that I can not only stay breathing, but share with you so that all of you are safe and it doesn't happen to the next person what's being done to me. So, my present to you.
Hello everyone, this is Kevin Perlman, and tonight I wanted to bring you a special present, or at least those who have been abused by the psychology community and the judicial system. We are here at Pacific Coast Highway, or above Pacific Coast Highway, at night, and I have brought with me the DSM3 book of psychological labels. This book, I am sure, has destroyed many people's lives with the psychology community working with the judicial system to label, to control people by throwing labels, labeling them as mentally ill, and then trying to control or dictate their lives, like has been done to me. In my case, these labels change on a daily basis, but everything that is in this book are broad general labels that you can throw on someone to make them look crazy, and it pretty much applies to anything you want it to, depending on how you twist and contort it. Well, it obviously wasn't meant for that originally, but due to corruption in our judicial system and corruption in the psychology community, mostly from people probably that want to feel a sense of power, that are lonely and want something more to their lives, preying on the weak, which is not what this book originally was meant for, but seems to be happening a lot in the judicial system with me, and I'm sure many others that are afraid to speak out about it. So I wanted to share my thoughts about this psychological and judicial cult, which is used to either eradicate, get rid of people that know too much, or just make money off the weak, showing predators in our judicial system and psychology community, which aren't really here to help people. And I tonight want to share my thoughts. So tonight we're going to have a little barbecue, because we all love barbecue. So I brought our DSM3 book. By the way, I think it is up to 5 now, but either way, they are just a book of labels. They don't really mean anything because you really can't know someone until you actually get to know them. And so that is why this is a dangerous book. So tonight we're going to have a little cookout. So I brought with me my little handy dandy Zippo, which is a heart with a sword in it, for that little extra zest, I guess, to show a little love back to the psychology community for what they've done to my life. You doing all sorts of things like using women to try to make me look like a stalker, things like this, and all sorts of freaky labels for control. And while it doesn't really directly relate to anything, it kind of relates to the little intricacies of my lives and the things that are kind of endlessly been done to my life for 40 years to try to make me look crazy or oversensitive or like I'm a stalker and all sorts of illegal frame job operations. So I just thought that would be appropriate. While some people like to burn flags to make statements about our Constitution and the freedoms to have the ability to burn flags, even though I don't justify burning flags unless it's to make a point about your freedoms, this would be under the same similar types of lines, except this is the DSM-3 book of psychological labels and not the United States flag of America. But anyways, let's marinade our book so we can get it nice and juicy so that it can get what it deserves. Well, since everyone loves to eat and we need to eat 3 meals a day to stay alive, let's start cooking and enjoy. There it is, everyone. the book I love so much, which has done so much for my life, from label after label with the government to control, dictate, tell me what I can and can't do, while they try to leverage themselves over me, saying you're crazy and you don't have the constitutional rights that everyone else has. Well, last I checked, it's not a crime to be crazy if I were to be crazy, hence putting anyone in danger who is labeled crazy or labeled with a mental illness, which is not a crime. Hence the police following me from place to place for 40 years, trying to prove I'm crazy to justify locking me away, which doesn't make any sense because no crime was ever committed. But it all came down to one thing: labels. At 5 years old, I was labeled, and the government took away my constitutional rights and freedoms. Well, that is unacceptable. Using things like the Patriot Act or FISA, the government has been hunting me for 40 years, with worldwide support, spewing out lie after lie with the psychology community. He's crazy. He has OCD. He's a stalker. He's obsessed. He's a paranoid, which switches to he's a paranoid schizo, which switches to he's a violent paranoid schizo. Trying to tell me who I can date, where I can go, what my hobbies are, what they feel is healthy or not healthy for me. What's next? Salt on my food? I can't put salt on my food? Well, everything they've done to my life is on par with that simple concept of you're not allowed to put salt on your food or else. Hence, why we get to cook the DSM3 book, which is a danger to people, which has been a danger to my life. And those wanting power and control by using this book as a weapon to destroy people's lives that they don't like, or they don't trust, or they don't want talking. For example, when I found out what was going on at 29, that's when they really got nasty with their psychological labels, amplifying their attacks and lies about me. So, this is my statement to the judicial system, the psychology community, and everyone that is involved in something like that. This book, while it shouldn't be a danger, it should be here to help people that need help, isn't necessarily used for that. It is used as a weapon. And there are a lot of people in the psychology communities which support each other and don't feel that they are doing anything wrong by destroying other people's lives by simply throwing labels on them. Looking good. Might need to be flipped a little. While the psychology community feels that they can do whatever they want to people's lives, they don't take into account the ramifications of what they are and can do to people's lives. At any point, if someone in the psychology community does not like you or doesn't want you talking, they can basically tell the police that they feel that you are a danger to yourself or others. This happened to me probably with several. One's name was Susan Donner, another's name was Alex Lazar, another's name was Karine Eschigan. There were several involved, all working the same exact angles and tactics and working together in communication with each other, basically saying, don't let this guy get help. Don't let this guy talk to anyone about his life. Don't let this guy talk to any of the things that have been done to his life. Just keep him quiet. And in order to keep me quiet, came these psychological labels to silence me. Hence why this symbolic message is so important. It looks like our DSM3 book of psychological labels and controls to dictate people's lives with the corrupt part of the judicial system is cooked, maybe a little well done, but I think it looks kind of like how it should. This dangerous book, which wasn't originally meant to be dangerous, but it is leading to all sorts of aspects of our government which violate people's constitutional rights. And while most people are busy from their day-to-day life not thinking about things like that, I can guarantee that if you wake up and find out that there's all sorts of investigations on you for no reason at all, based on people in the psychology community throwing labels on you to justify them getting what they want, you will then understand that the Constitution, this day and age, with things like the Patriot Act and FISA, is pretty much equivalent to your roll of toilet paper at home. Basically making statements about our United States of America, which is the best place in the world, and you are safe, where everyone gets a fair shot and everyone is protected. You are not protected. You do not have constitutional protections. And the statement, which was basically made to me after watching what they did to my life, applies to everyone. And that is that we have a Constitution of the United States which protects you from all sorts of amendments. First Amendment, freedom of speech. Second Amendment, right to bear arms. Fourth Amendment, I think that is excessive force. I think Eighth Amendment might be unusual punishment. Don't quote me on those because I don't know which number correlates to what. But what I can tell you is that to say that you are protected by the Constitution of the United States, except when someone in the judicial system or government is having a bad day and it doesn't apply to you, basically tells you that the Constitution is not protecting anyone. It can't be both ways. The Constitution is either a set of laws that protects you, or it's not. And you can't say, well, it applies to everyone but this person because we don't like him or trust him. Hence, what's the point of it? Exactly what it says in the Patriot Act, which is we can bypass the Constitution if we feel that so-and-so might be a terrorist. Okay, well, what's to stop someone from saying, I don't like this person, I think he's a terrorist. Or I don't like this person, I think they're a violent, paranoid schizo. Hence, throwing out your constitutional rights. Well, that is not how our founders built the Constitution, but that is what is going on in our government right now, and everything that has been done to my life that can be seen on KevinPerlmanTarget.com, beyond any reasonable doubt, exposes these types of demented government operations. I turn 29, I wake up, and boom, I find out that there's literally a worldwide campaign to lock me away and rid me of the world based on psychological labels and endless fiction of all sorts of crimes or this and that don't exist. Hence, all starting from psychological labels and the government's justification of removing me from society with all sorts of labels that his kind can't exist, or we think he's crazy, therefore I can't exist. And like I said before, who's to say someone who is crazy can't exist? And back to the definition, what is crazy? Hence why this book is so dangerous. What is crazy? Is a lawyer going to think a mechanic, a white-collar worker going to think a blue-collar worker who's a mechanic is crazy because he doesn't have the same hobbies or like the same things as him, so therefore he's crazy? Right? So how do you really define crazy? Because what we're really talking about is different. And when we talk about different, everyone's pretty much different from everyone else. So where do you draw the line? Because they don't like what he likes, therefore they're crazy. Or he's different from that person, therefore he's crazy. And the only people that aren't crazy are the mainstream, tight-knit, we're all normal, we all do the same exact thing. Well, that's not the way capitalism works. That's not the way. Capitalism could never sustain that way. People come up with original ideas every day, doing different, unique things, and everyone comes from different backgrounds. So, when you're using the term crazy, or labels out of the DSM3 book, what is it really applying to? So, anyways, that is why I have given this present to you, or at least those that can understand and comprehend what is actually going on in our judicial system with the psychology community, based on abuse of power and control for the government to dictate people's lives. My life is exactly that. For 40 years, there is a new daily label about either something I've supposedly done wrong or some mental illness tactic or some mental illness label, and it just changes for them to get what they want. But in the end, it's all about you do what we say, or we off you, or we lock you away. We put you in a mental institution or a jail cell, or we try to get you to kill yourself, or try to get you enough people to attack you all day and night until your nervous system gives out and you die. But it all comes from the same exact place. The DSM3 and psychologists and psychiatrists throwing labels on what they dictate normal behavior is, and we would all agree that everyone's behavior varies a little from hobbies to the type of person they like to date to the foods they like to eat, and unless this behavior isn't something beyond any level of drastic, like running around blowing up buildings or something, then nothing has been done wrong. But that is not what is happening in my life. My life is, you didn't sit perfectly straight, therefore you suffer from this, you suffer from that, and it's inappropriate behavior. So when we're talking about these labels, what do these labels really mean? Well, that's very vague in reference, and each situation is completely different. But to throw on a black and white label, example, so-and-so broke up with his, or divorced his wife, he was depressed for a month, and then went out and started doing different things with his life. In my world, a label would be thrown on me that he suffers from depression and needs to be removed from society, which generally doesn't make any sense, because in the black and white world based on labels, there is no change, there is no varying factors such as the label of clinically, a label of depression would not mean that so-and-so was depressed for a short while. It means that so-and-so is always depressed and it doesn't change. Someone who is paranoid. Well, people fall into states of paranoia now and then from minor degrees, And if someone notices someone in their life is very shady and doing demented things, and you start to question it, which is what happened to me, that is not paranoia in respect to a label and a mental illness. That is a human emotion. It is an emotion that most people actually probably experience in their life, and depending on what your lifestyle is, really determines that. If you've lived a completely padded life, then maybe you can't comprehend what it is to be around people in the business world that are cutthroat business people, that those white collar criminal types that most people aren't used to seeing. So to throw a label on someone for questioning something, which is exactly what happened to me by the psychology community, is exactly why I feel that a book of labels is a danger when we have so much corruption in the psychology community and judicial system. While I'm not saying that we should not have psychological labels or the DSM3 book, what I am saying is that there are no checks and balances with the judicial system and the psychology community so that people are protected. And at any point they can say, I feel he's a danger to himself or others, based on saying, oh, well, I think this person is paranoid, therefore I feel he's a danger to himself or others. Giving them all sorts of control to figure out ways to do whatever they want with people. And while the average person has no concept of that, I can guarantee that as you get up the business ladder or into environments that aren't so simple in life, where you deal with unethical, immoral people, these are situations that arise. And being that the psychology community is so tight-knit with the judicial system, that's where this book becomes a danger. Hence my statement right here with our little barbecue DSM3 book. Maybe I'll get the newer book and cook me up some newer psychological labels, but for now I think I've made my statement what I think of the psychology community and what they've done to my life for the last 40 years with the judicial system. A judicial system which, once I came to reality and found out that they are the most corrupt form of government employees known to man, and I have seen every crime broken in the judicial system by judges, by lawyers, by DAs, psychologists, psychiatrists working with them, even large-scale corporations that have been contacted in my situation over and over by people with authority, basically telling them this person is under investigation and they're crazy and this and that and blah blah blah, so therefore I want you to be vigilantes for us, obviously not stating it in that way, but making them feel important, like they're doing something for justice, and them not realizing that once the police approach you and tell you to go after someone, you're actually committing a crime for the police. And they're doing this based on these labels. That person's crazy. That person's a paranoid. That person's a paranoid schizo. That person's a violent paranoid schizo. Oh, we were wrong. That person's playing games with our lives. They're crazy. Whatever. It doesn't matter. In the end, it all comes from the same place. The police and the judicial system using labels to dictate, control, destroy people's lives who know too much, you name it. So, thank you, and I hope you enjoy.